Night shifts. So, if I had to pick one analogy to kind of describe my feelings towards night shifts, I would have to say it'd be, when you're enjoying a nice chocolate chip cookie and, you say you want a glass of milk with it as well. And you got milk, you got a chocolate chip cookie, and, you got to dunk it into the milk. So you put it in there, but, you make the mistake of leaving it in there slightly too long. And then, that moment when the cookie breaks off into the milk, and you've lost half your cookie, well, that's the kind of excitement that I get every time I have to do a night shift. What's going on, guys? Jazz here, and welcome to another video. So in today's video, I thought for some reason I was reminiscing about all the night shifts that I've had over the past 7 years. Thankfully, I don't do them anymore, but I was kind of thinking, when you start out doing night shifts, there's a lot of kind of tips and tricks that kind of make your night shift a lot better and more bearable for you. So I thought in today's video, I would go through some of those tips, some of the lessons that I've learned over the past, several years, which really kind of made me going from a night shift rookie into more of a pro. Now, my first tip is to kind of prepare yourself for a lead-in into your night shift. So a lot of places kind of do week on, week off. Your facility might do something different, but mine was usually week on, week off. And before the week started, which would usually be on the Monday, over that weekend just leading up, I would kind of prepare myself, kind of prepare my mind, my body for the night shift experience. So on that weekend leading up, I would purposely stay up as late as I could. So say on the Saturday night before the week starts, I would try and push myself to, stay up till about, 2-3 o'clock if I could. That's keeping in mind I'm usually a person that goes to sleep pretty early. So, 10:30 is my usual bedtime. So to push myself to 2-3 o'clock is pretty late. So I would do that on the Saturday night and then try and sleep in on the Sunday. Now, again, for most doctors and medical students, it's probably pretty hard to sleep in these days because you're so used to having to wake up so early to go to hospital for ward rounds or classes, etc. But try and sleep in as much as you can, and then, hopefully you can get through to a decent, wake up, like not waking up too early. Then that Sunday, which is the night before your first night shift, try and push that, staying up time even later to maybe around, 5 a.m. if you can. And that will just make it easy for you once in your first couple of night shifts. Tip number 2 would be to prepare your kind of food and drinks. So a lot of the time, if you're not well prepared or you haven't packed meals and drinks for yourself, you will struggle big time. So the last thing you want to do is kind of spend the night. Firstly, you don't want to be hungry because, if you're on a hungry stomach, you haven't got any food, then you're going to really struggle doing your job as it is. But the last thing you want to also do is, because you haven't brought food, then, you end up going to the vending machines all the time. You end up getting really, high GI kind of stuff like chocolate bars or, soft drinks, etc. And, spike your sugar momentarily, and then you kind of have a real low, and then you're kind of feeling quite terrible again. You don't want to do anything like that. So my suggestion there is always prepare food and snacks. Like I always used to just bring, sandwiches, muesli bars, fruit. That was pretty much all I would really bring. I would try and be mindful of what I was eating during night shifts, which kind of made me feel better. And it also helps you to fight off the temptation of all the snacks and lollies and everything that's always on the wards that the nurses always kindly provide on a night shift. But I always try to be mindful of that and just try and stick to healthy, low GI kind of foods. And hydration wise, you don't want to be drinking soft drinks. Just drink a lot of water if you can. I always used to bring one of those big 2-liter bottles and just try and drink as much water as I could. And again, that kind of just firstly helped me stay awake because I'd probably walk into the bathroom every 1 hour, but water's good for you. My third tip would be to bring your own coffee. Now, coffee is a lifesaver, regardless of what stage of your career you're in. Coffee is amazing. So I learned initially, like some hospitals, I don't know if your hospital has a coffee cart overnight, but mine didn't. So if you've got one of those places with a, barista 24/7 or something like that, then that's an absolute dream. But my place didn't have anything like that, and we didn't have a 24/7 cafe either. So if you've got those things at your hospital, you're sorted. You can get good coffee whenever you need it. But my place was more of those small sachets of coffee that are lying around on the kitchen bench tops in various parts of the hospital. Tastes terrible, so ideally you don't want to be drinking that. So I'd always just bring my own coffee grounds and just some like good tasting coffee, and then make that myself at various points during the night. And that is an absolute lifesaver. So now you've managed to make it through the night shift, and you finally, like that moment where you're walking around and you finally see the sun coming up. That's the best feeling. And then even better feeling is when you see the morning staff starting to come into the hospital, and you know that it's almost the end. So once you finish your shift, you've handed over, gone home, and I found the most, like a really good thing to do is, the first temptation is walk into your door and just crash and go to sleep. But you have to be mindful that, the night shift's going to be starting quite many hours later, like after you've gone to sleep. So I always tried to stay awake for at least a couple of hours once I got home, just so I could push my wake up time to a bit later. So, for instance, if I finished my shift at 8:30 in the morning and say I got home at 9 o'clock, and then you go to sleep straight away. And I don't know, like for me, I normally don't sleep that well during night shifts. Like the maximum I'll probably sleep is 6 hours. So, so if I went to bed that early and then I woke up 6 hours later, it's like mid-afternoon. And the last thing you want is like 6 or 7 hours before your shift actually starts and you're awake. Because firstly, you're going to feel like rubbish anyway, but then by the time shift starts, you're going to be feeling like pretty bad. So if you push those, you go to bed, I'd usually try and go to bed around 10, 11. And then, ideally if I can sleep till about 6 p.m, then that'd be amazing. And you just kind of, you'll just feel a lot better going into the shift without having been awake for 6 hours before you actually have to start, say, 11, 12-hour shift. Now, my fifth tip, this goes to kind of optimizing your sleep during the day. Now, like I said before, I don't usually sleep that well during night shifts. I'd have to say when I was younger and when I first started doing them, internship, residency and all that, nights were a lot easier, and that was just because I was younger, I'm guessing. And then, but the older I've gotten, the harder I find to kind of sleep and cope with doing night shifts. So I think trying to facilitate or optimize your sleep is one of the most useful things that you can do. Now, it took me a while for some reason to kind of know to do these kind of things, but obviously you want to keep your room as dark as possible. So, close all your blinds, make sure all the light's blocked out. Get those eye cover thingies, those mask things that you can do, that they give you like on planes and whatever, and use one of those. And the other most useful thing is, I don't care how cold or how hot it is outside, I think turning on the aircon or a fan or something like that just to really cool down the temperature in your room, that is key. Now, my final tip comes down to transitioning out of your night shift. So say you've done, 7 nights in a row, and, by the time, initially the first couple of nights, like say the first 3, it usually can be a bit of a struggle to kind of stay awake the entire time. But by the time you get to your 7th shift, you're in the mode, like you're in the zone, right? Like you nocturnal by this stage. But the thing is though, you've finished 7 nights and then you say if you got your week off, that's going to be during daytime. So you have to quickly transition back into day shifts. Now, the key here is you want to transition back as quickly as you can. So I used to find that, say I finished at 8:30 on Monday morning, so after my 7 shifts, then what I would do is on that morning, I would go to bed kind of straight away once I got home. But I would minimize or limit the amount of time that I would sleep. So I would only sleep maximum 4 or 5 hours, so get up early afternoon. You're obviously going to feel terrible because your sleep has probably gotten better by that stage, like of having done so many nights. But you don't want to oversleep because that'll ruin your sleep the next night, and then you'll find it so hard to transition back into being a normal day person. So yeah, wake up early and then, you know, kind of battle on for the rest of the day, be lazy, and then try and get to bed relatively early, like 9, 10, because I would imagine you're normally feeling pretty tired by then. So you go to bed early and then hopefully wake up the next morning and hopefully you're back to normal. So guys, those are my tips to help you with your night shifts. They're not any fun and I can't say I enjoyed them at all. But at the end of the day, as medical staff, you've got to be, you know, on your A game during the night, especially me as a radiologist. Like, you're getting traumas, really sick inpatients throughout the night, and, you know, you're going to be thinking at, you know, full capacity the entire night. So these kind of tips help to make your nights a bit easier and kind of, you know, help you to continue being productive and, you know, a good doctor. So guys, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.